Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another episode of Into the Badlands. This is a series of battle ports that is dedicated to a small, limited mini-campaign that we're currently running for our Necromunda Dominion campaign for our Sector 7 Turf War. Now this one is fought between the 4 lowest ranking gangs in our campaign currently, and the reason why we're doing that is because this little mini-campaign is taking place during the down phase of our Dominion campaign that we're running. So because of that, these 4 gangs will be fighting it out in order to gain reputation, as well as experience, and also to increase their gang ratings. The reason why we did this is because these 4 gangs have a couple things in common. First of all 4 gangs are about 500 points less in gang rating than their counterparts. Same thing with at least 5 points reputation difference as well. And that's the reason why we're kind of running this little mini campaign for them. So Into the Badlands, this is episode number 2 of that battle report, 27 in total for our Dominion campaign. And this one is a last stand scenario that is fought between my 2 friends, Fresh Prince Belair and Dark Lord Mac. Fresh Prince Belair is bringing the Iron Sights of House Orlock, while Dark Lord Mac is bringing Section 8 of the Venators. So these guys will be throwing it down in a last stand scenario. If you want to see exactly what each of the gangs is bringing for this one, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll. Alright, so the scenario rules for this one is Last Stand. What ends up happening is that the defender, which is Dark Lord Mac in this scenario, he has home turf advantage and he must be deployed within the center of the battlefield within a 10-inch radius. At the end of each turn, the attacker gets D6 reinforcements, and if an attacker's fighters go out of action in this scenario, they don't roll in the serious injury chart, instead they become reinforcements. And so because of that, it's kind of helpful for the Orlocks so that way they don't lose anybody. If the defender makes it to round 7 of this game, they win, otherwise the attackers do. For the rewards, depending about how many rounds the defender survives depends on the rewards for both attackers as well as defenders. If Dark Lord Mac happens to make it to rounds 1 through 2, he loses 3 points reputation, earns 0 credits, while the attacker, which is Fresh Prince Belair, he'll get plus 3 reputation and 2d6 times 10 credits. If Dark Lord Mac makes it to rounds 3 and 4, he'll earn 1 point reputation, d3 times 10 creds, while Fresh Prince Belair will earn plus 2 reputation as well as d6 times 10 credits. If he makes it to round 5, Dark Lord Mac will earn 2 points reputation and d6 times 10 credits, while Fresh Prince Belair earns 1 point reputation and earns only d3 times 10 credits. And of course, if Dark Lord Mac makes it to round 7, he earns 3 points reputation and 2d6 times 10 credits, while Fresh Prince Belair loses 3 points reputation as well as earns 0 credits as well. For the experience on this one, each ganger and fighter receives 1 point of experience for fighting in the scenario, and defending fighters, if they make it to round 7, those who are not broken or seriously injured, they earn d3 times d3 experience points. And that pretty much makes it the scenario rules for this one. So with the scenario rules over, let's go talk about the battle plan real quick. Alright, so here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. My friends Dark Lord Mac and Fresh Prince Belair are fighting on a 4x4 table. Dark Lord Mac's Section 8 Venator gang is located in the center of the table, with his gangs occupying the high ground of those walkways, whereas my buddy Fresh Prince Belair, he's got fighters scattered on 3 table edges, so that way he can kind of envelop them and, try to circle them up. From the battle plan on this one, from what I'm understanding, my buddy Dark Lord Mac, his goal is just to survive as long as he can. He's going to occupy the high ground, so that way he can only limit the amount of fighters that can come towards him, so it's kind of a good defensive position, while my other friend Fresh Prince Belair is just going to go on the offensive. He doesn't suffer any negatives for any of his fighters going out of action. He doesn't have to do bottle tests, he doesn't take any serious injuries, so there's no real reason for him not to play offensively in this scenario. So with the battle plan over with, let's go talk about deployment real quick. Alright, so let's go and talk about deployment for the Venators. So over here on the left-hand side for Section 8, that is Manchurian Black. He is a hunter who's armed with mesh armor and twin last pistols. And right next to him is Red Harvest, who is a champion who's got the clamber as well as the fast shot skills. I believe he's also packing a long rifle as well as a maul. And that makes up the deployment here on the left-hand flank for the Venators. In the center of the walkways is where Dark Lord Mac has centered most of his forces. On the left-hand side, that is the Kurgan. He is a hunter who's got 2 twin servo claws. Right next to him is Val the Impaler. He's carrying a harpoon gun as well as a bolt pistol. Behind them is their leader, the Saracen. He is the hunt leader in this case. He's got a hotshot last pistol. He's also got a sword. He's also got the Overseer as well as commanding presence skills. And right next to him on the right hand side, that is Buzzkill. That is a hunter who's armed with a chainsword as well as a plasma pistol. And that makes up his deployment here in the center of the battlefield. And finally, on the right-hand side, on the top of the gantry walkway, that is AWOL Al, who's another hunter champion. He's got a bolt gun as well as an axe, I believe. And right behind him is Mayday. She's armed with a last gun, just a normal hunter. And then below them on that gantry walkway in the first level, that is Redcap Killer. That is a hunt champ. He's got the gunfighter skills. He's packing a bolt pistol and a plasma pistol. And right next to him is Noose Taggart, who's another hunter who's armed with a stub gun as well as a shotgun with solid as well as scatter shot. And that pretty much makes a deployment for the Venators of Section 8. So now into the Fresh Prince Bel-Air's deployment for the Iron Sights of House Orlock. Over here on the left-hand side, he's got his leader, that is the Toe Cutter. Right in front, he's got a little squad of juvies. On the left-hand side, that's Diabando, who's armed with a maul as well as an auto pistol. Next to him is Johnny the Boy, who's armed with an auto pistol and a knife. And the far right-hand side, that is Clunk. He's armed with a stub gun with dum-dum bullets as well as a knife as well. And that makes up his deployment here on the left-hand flank. On the near side of the table, on the top of the MCI Chemical Works tower, we have, I believe that guy is Clunk is his name. No, sorry, Kundalini. That's a gang who's armed with a shotgun, a grenade launcher with crack and frag grenades. He's also got an auto pistol and a maul. And right next to him on the right-hand side, that is the Knight Rider, who's a gang champion armed with a heavy stubber. And that makes up the deployment here on the near side of the table for the Iron Sights. And finally, on the far right-hand flank, up on the top, that is Bubba Zanetti. He is a ganger armed with an autogun with a telescopic sight. Behind him, that is Mudguts, who's a ganger armed with a shotgun. On the left-hand side, that is Starbuck. He's a ganger armed with a maul as well as an autogun. And right next to him is Torque, which is a ganger armed with a last gun as well as a bolt pistol. And that makes up the right-hand deployment for the Iron Sights. So with deployment over, my friends roll off for initiative to see who goes first on the top of turn number 1. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 1, and the Orlocks managed to get the initiative on this one. So Fresh Prince Bel-Air activates the Knight Rider, and since he's a champion, he also activates Kundalini as well. Both of them take open fire with their heavy stubber, as well as their grenade launcher directly into Manchurian Black, as well as Red Harvest, who are on the top of the walkway right across the battlefield from them, because they are the closest targets to them. And the end what ended up happening is that the Knight Rider managed to hit Red Harvest. Red Harvest wasn't wounded from the shot. However, when he did fail his initiative test, he did plummet to the earth, and that actually put a serious injury on him. At the same time, the crack grenade that was fired by Kundalini lands directly into Manchurian Black. Not only does it manage to blast him and put him out of action, causing a out cold result, but he also fell and also got hit with a serious injury, and he fell to the ground as well. So because of that, right off the bat, the Venators have lost one member of their gang so far. In response to that, my friend Dark Lord Mac then activates AWOL Al, his hunt champion, who also activates Mayday, and both those characters open up with their bolt gun and last gun respectively. Now the crazy thing about this is that AWOL Al actually has the fast shot ability, so you can actually fire his bolter twice in the same round, so that part's pretty crazy actually. So in the end, AWOL Al was able to put a serious injury upon the Knight Rider, so he drops him to the ground, and then he actually managed to hit, but fails to wound Kundalini, so Kundalini is pinned right now. Mayday, unfortunately for her, though, she missed both of her shots, so not much really came from that one as well. She even took a basic aim action to get +1 to hit, but unfortunately for her, though, she was unable to make that shot. Meanwhile, on the far left-hand flank, Fresh Prince Bel-Air decides to begin his assault. He activates the Toe Cutter, who then also, using his commanding and presence ability, activates Diabando, Johnny the Boy, as well as Clunk. And as you can see here, all four of those fighters actually do double movements. The Juvies, Johnny the Boy, Diabando, as well as Clunk make it to the first level of the walkway, while the Toe Cutter is right beneath them at the base of that gantry walkway. So in order to repel the assault that is coming his way, my friend Dark Lord Mac then activates the Saracen, who then also activates the Kurgan, Buzzkill, as well as Val the Impaler. The Kurgan does a double movement across the walkway, heading directly towards the Juvies, so that way you can start engaging those guys in close combat. Meanwhile, the Saracen, as well as Buzzkill, they kind of tuck it to the right a little bit and also move up a normal movement allowance, so that way they can start taking shots with their guns. I believe the Saracen managed to hit Diabando, managed to wound him, as well as put a serious injury on him as well. At the same time, the Val the Impaler opened fire with his harpoon gun. Not only did he manage to hit as well as wound Johnny the Boy, he also dragged him forward 3 inches as well, also putting a flesh wound on him at the same time. And I believe the reason why he went to seriously injured is because Buzzkill hit him with a plasma pistol and put a serious injury marker on that guy as well. So right off the bat, the assault on the left-hand flank is not going very well for Fresh Prince Bel-Air. Meanwhile, on the far right-hand side of the battlefield, Mudguts is activated next, and he actually does a double movement running up that walkway, starting assault on the far right-hand flank of the Venators on the right-hand side. And at the same time, our friend then activates Redcap Killer, who also activates Noose Tagger. Both those fighters do move up a normal move allowance, so that way they can do a basic move action, and they start opening fire with their guns. I believe my friend, my friend's champion Redcap Killer opens fire upon Mudguts, and same thing with Noose Tagger. Noose Tagger opens up with a Solid Slug as well, heading directly into Mudguts. If I remember how this correctly worked out, Redcap Killer actually missed his shot, so he was unable to hit Clunk. However, Noose Tagger managed to hit him with a Solid Slug right in the center mass. Not only does he manage to hit him, he also managed to seriously wound him and put a flesh wound him at the same time. So Mudguts is now currently laying on the ground bleeding out. So the rest of the action phase is actually dedicated to my friend Fresh Prince Belair, since he has nothing but fighters left over. So he activates the 3 remaining fighters he has left. He activates Bubba Zanetti there on the right hand side, Torque on the left hand side, same thing with Starbuck as well. He does a double, I think he does a normal move with all 3 of those guys, so that way they move up 5 inches, and they all 3 of them take shots with their auto guns and with bolt pistol respectively, directly into Redcap Killer. In the end, it was Bubba Zanetti who did manage to hit Redcap Killer, but unfortunately for him, though, he wasn't able to wound him, so all he did was pin. Now, Redcap Killer did fail his initiative test, but when he rolled to see exactly what happened to him when he fell to the ground, he actually didn't get wounded at all. So all he's doing right now is laying on the ground face up and currently pinned and prone, and that's the only thing that's pretty much happening to him. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase. So in the end phase, Fresh Prince Belair has to roll up this injury roll for Mudguts and rolls an out of action result. But because he's the attacker in the scenario, he doesn't have to worry about actually making any injury rolls. In fact, Mudguts will be coming back at the end of the turn anyways. Meanwhile, across the table, the Knight Rider does get back on his feet again with a flesh wound, so now he is 1 toughness point stronger, so he's easier to wound. However, he's still pretty deadly because he can still shoot that heavy stubber of his. Meanwhile, on the left-hand flank, Johnny the Boy does roll out of action result, but that's not such a big deal because he does get to come back in during the reinforcement phase, and he doesn't have to worry about rolling for serious injuries. Meanwhile, Diabando is still seriously injured, so he's laying on the ground bleeding. And Dark Lord Max Hunt champion Red Harvest, he's still laying on the ground and he's still bleeding out because he rolled another serious injury roll, and he's just laying there not doing much of anything. So with the end phase over with, we go directly to the reinforcements phase. And Fresh Prince Belair redeploys both Mudguts as well as Johnny the Boy to the far left-hand flank, so that way they can start putting their assault on the left-hand side of the Venators deployment zone. So with the end phase over with, that takes directly to the end of the turn. And here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield, so that way you can see what's going on. As you can see, the Orange Sights are starting to push their advance on the left as well as the right-hand flank, trying to catch the Venators in a pincer attack. At the same time, they're also being suppressed on the near side of the table by both the Knight Rider as well as Kundalini, even though Kundalini is currently pinned. The Venators have lost 1 member of their gang so far, so things are not looking very good for the opening rounds. And with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and both Dark Lord Mac and Fresh Prince Belair roll off for initiative to see who has priority. Alright, so we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and the Venators manage to get the initiative on this one, so Dark Lord Mac will be going first. The first thing he does, he activates AWOL Al as well as Mayday, and both those gangers open fire with their weapons directly into the Knight Rider as well as Kundalini. AWOL Al getting to shoot twice with his bolt gun, while Mayday shoots with her las gun. In the end, AWOL Al managed to hit the Knight Rider actually 4 times, actually wounded him 4 times as well. The Knight Rider actually got 2 serious injury dice, a flesh wound, as well as an out of action roll, so because of that, the Knight Rider goes directly out of action, which is not so bad for Fresh Prince Belair because, once again, he's the attacker in this scenario. He doesn't worry about doing injury rolls. In fact, he'll come back in the reinforcements phase. Meanwhile, Mayday, she does manage to hit. Not only did she manage to hit Kundalini, she also managed to wound him as well. And when it actually came up on the roll on that one, actually got a flesh wound on that part, so because of that, he's laying face down, and he'll be a little bit easier to wound as well because now he's -1 toughness. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side of the battlefield, Fresh Prince Belair then activates Clunk, who then charges directly into the Kurgan and engages him in close combat. Now, he does get 2 bonus attack dice for that attack round because he charged as well as has 2 weapons, and he decides to open up with his stub gun with dum-dum bullets because that is a strength 4 weapon. Unfortunate for him, though, he flubbed all of his rolls, so not much really happened in the fight phase for that one. However, the Kurgan does counterattack, and not only does he manage to hit Clunk, he also managed to wound and put him out of action as well. So because of that, Clunk does go away, but like I said before, he doesn't have to worry about injuries, and in fact, he comes back in the reinforcements phase as well. Meanwhile, the Kurgan also nets himself an experience point for taking an enemy fighter out of action, so that part's kind of cool. Meanwhile, on the bottom of the screen, my friend Fresh Prince Belair then activates Torque, who then charges directly into Redcap Killer. And since Redcap Killer is prone, he gets back on his feet and they start engaging in close combat. Torque gets an additional attack die because he charges. He uses both of his attacks. He uses Bolt Pistol in order to shoot Redcap Killer in the face because he's got the sidearm ability on that gun. Unfortunate for my buddy Fresh Prince Belair, though, he just failed his attack dice. So when it came to his 4 weapon skill, he just kind of failed his roll. So not much really actually happened from that. So in response, my friend Dark Lord Matt then activates News Taggart, who moves up a normal 5 inches and then fires a shotgun with a solid slug directly into Starbuck. Not only does he manage to hit him, he also manages to put a serious injury on him as well. So Starbuck is now laying face down, bleeding out because he's just all kinds of messed up, and he will need to make an injury roll in the end phase to see exactly what happens to him. Meanwhile, on the far left-hand side of the battlefield, my friend then activates his leader, the Toe Cutter, who then also activates Giant the Boy, as well as Mudguts, and those guys actually spend double movements to make it up to the top, the middle level there of the walkway, so that way they can start engaging the Saracen, the Kurgan, as well as his other 2 hunters in the center of the battlefield. In response, Dark Lord Matt then activates the Saracen, who then in turn also activates the Kurgan. He also activates Val the Impaler, as well as Buzzkill. Now, I believe the Kurgan actually does a double movement moving forwards towards the Toe Cutter, so he starts closing the distance to try to get closer to them. At the same time, Buzzkill opens up with his Plasma Pistol, manages not to only wound Johnny the Boy, but also put a serious injury on him as well. And I believe he put a serious injury on him as well as a flesh wound, I believe. So because of that, Johnny the Boy is all kinds of screwed up, laying on the ground, is bleeding out right now. Val the Impaler does fire his harpoon gun, but unfortunately for him, though, he fails to hit anybody, so because of that, his action is wasted. Meanwhile, the Saracen, the hunt leader, he actually spends a double movement to drop down to the bottom level to be right next to Red Harvest, so that way he can give him some support during the end phase for his injury roll to see if he can get him back on his feet again with a flesh wound. Meanwhile, on the far right-hand side of the battlefield, my friend Fresh Prince Belair activates Bubba Zanetti, who uses his telescopic-sighted autogun to open fire onto Nurse Taggart. When unfortunately, though, he misses his shots, so not much really happens there on the far right-hand side. And for his final activation, Dark Lord Mac then activates Redcap Killer, who then also directs his attacks into Torque, uses a plasma gun to basically blow off his head, so because that Torque goes out of action and he dies as well. But like I said, he's the attack of the scenario, so there's no loss for him to actually have guys go to action. In fact, he'll come back again in the reinforcement phase as well. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase. So during the end phase, my friend Fresh Prince Belair rolls an injury dice for Starbuck. Unfortunately for him, though, he rolled another serious injury results. Because of that, Starbuck is still laying on the ground and he is still bleeding to death. Diabanda also rolls on the serious injury dice as well, but when he rolled for his serious injury, he actually got a little bit of support from both, Mudguts as well as the Toe Cutter. So when he rolled his 2 dice to see what happened to him, he actually got, 2 out of action rolls. So because of that, Diabanda also goes out of action, but like I said, he doesn't have to worry about his injuries, and in fact, he'll come back in the reinforcement phase anyways. And Red Harvest, he does get back on his feet again with a flesh wound due to the saving grace of the Saracen. He actually got to roll 2 injury dice for that character. He rolled a serious injury result as well as a flesh wound. So when you add support like that for a downed fighter, you actually get to pick your die result. And so Red Harvest gets back on his feet again. And finally, for the recovery rolls, Kundalini does get back on his feet again once again, and he also has a flesh wound on his profile as well, so now he's only toughness 1. If he takes one more flesh wound, he will go out of action, but that's not such a big deal because he can come back in the reinforcement phase, because that's how the rules of this scenario works. So with the end phase over with, we go directly to the reinforcements phase. And on the far right hand side of the battlefield, my friend Fresh Prince Belair redeploys Torque as well as Clunk and Giant the Boy, so that way they can start their assault on the far right hand side of the battlefield as well. And at the same time, he also redeploys a Knight Rider in the top left-hand corner of the battlefield, putting him on the top of the water tower of the MCI Chemical Works. So, with the reinforcement phase over with, that takes us directly to the end of the turn. So here's the end of turn number 2. This is an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield, and as you can see, the assault is still taking place on both the left as well as the right hand flanks, heading directly towards the center, towards the Venators. The Venators are taking some losses at this point, so the Iron Sights are slowly gaining ground over time. And as you can see now that they're worried about suppressing fire from both Kundalini with his grenade launcher on the near side of the table, as well as from the Knight Rider on the far side of the table as well. So at the end of turn number 2, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and my friends Fresh Prince Belair and Dark Lord Mac roll initiative to see who will be going first. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 3, and the Venators managed to get the priority on this one, so my friend Dark Lord Mac activates his gang leader, the Saracen, who then in turn also activates Red Harvest. His gang leader, the hunt leader, the Saracen, actually does a double movement to go right back on top of the gantry walkway again, so that way he can start, helping out the rest of his gang. And he also activates Red Harvest, and because he has the fast shot ability, he can fire his long rifle twice as basic actions during this phase. And not only does he manage to hit the Knight Rider twice, he also managed to wound him twice as well. He actually put 2 serious injury results onto the Knight Rider. But what ended up happening though is the Knight Rider had to take an initiative test to see if he falls off the water tower, and he failed that initiative test. And as he came plummeting to the earth, he hit the ground and got an out of action result as well. So because of that, the Knight Rider does go immediately into out of action. However, he doesn't have to worry about taking injury rolls because he goes directly into reinforcement. Meanwhile, on the far left-hand flank, Fresh Prince Bel-Air then activates the Toe Cutter, and since he's the leader, he also activates Mudguts. Mudguts moves up his normal movement allowance, opens fire with a solid slug shotgun round directly into the Kurgan, and not only does he manage to hit the Kurgan as well, he also manages to wound him, and to make matters worse, the Kurgan fails his initiative test and goes plummeting off the side of the walkway. At the same time, my friend then activates the Toe Cutter, who takes a basic action to aim with his bolt gun, earning him +1 to hit, and he opens fire with the bolt gun directly into, I believe it was Buzzkill, as he ends up managing to hit on that one. And not only does that hit manage to hit Buzzkill, he also managed to put a grievous injury on him as well as he falls off the platform and hits the ground as well, so he goes directly out of action. Meanwhile, the Kurgan, though, he suffers 3 flesh wounds, 1 from the fall and 2 from the hit that he got from Clunk, and he's currently pinned on the ground and going prone. The problem that my friend runs into, of course, is that while the Kurgan does have 4 toughness, if he gets another flesh wound, he goes out of action, and he'll need to roll up on the serious injury table as well. To make matters worse, Red Harvest also fails his cool check after watching his 2 friends plummet from the earth on the top of the walkway, and so because of that, he runs back, I think like 8 inches when he ends up running by. So he is broken right now, and he hides underneath the bridge in the middle of the Slime River, so that way he doesn't get shot anymore because he is terrified. For his next activation, my friend Dark Lord Mac then activates Val the Impaler, who opens up with his harpoon gun, but unfortunately for him though, he actually misses his shot, so not much really happened on the left-hand side of the battlefield here. Meanwhile, on the right-hand flank of the battlefield, Bubba Zanetti does go next. He spends a basic action to take aim with his autogun with a telescopic sight, and he takes his second action in order to shoot at Red Cap Killer. He does manage to hit Red Cap Killer, but unfortunately for him, though, he wasn't able to wound him. So because that Red Cap Killer is currently pinned, and he's laying on the ground right now because all it did is he got hit, but not wounded. So Dark Lord Mac then activates AWOL Al, who then also activates Mayday as well. AWOL Al does try to open fire twice with his bolt gun directly into Kundalini across the battlefield, but unfortunately though, he actually misses both of his shots, and to make matters worse, he also rolls an ammo roll as well, so because of that, he does temporarily run out of ammo. To make matters worse, a bolt gun requires a 6-up ammo roll, and AWOL Al does not have any additional ranged weapons on his person, so because of that, things are slowly looking not very good for AWOL Al at all. Mayday, on the other hand, though, she does take aim with her last gun and opens fire directly into Bubba Zanetti. She does manage to hit Bubba Zanetti, but unfortunately for though, she wasn't able to wound him, so because of that, Bubba Zanetti is currently pinned. He's laying on the ground prone because he got hit, but not wounded. Meanwhile, on the right-hand flank, my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air just begins his assault on the right-hand flank. He moves up Torque, his normal movement allowance, to the top of the platform, and has him open fire with his bolt pistol directly into Noose Taggart. But unfortunately for him, though, when he rolled for his hit rolls, he actually rolled a 1, so not much really happened. In fact, he kind of missed his shot and kind of panicked fire. Noose Taggart just kind of looking at him kind of weird, like, what are you doing, bro? Meanwhile, Noose Taggart takes aim with his shotgun and opens with a solid slug, and he does manage to hit Torque. So not only does he manage to hit him as well, he also managed to put a flesh wound on that guy as well, so he is currently seriously injured, and he is bleeding as well with a flesh wound. And with that, Noose Taggart says, "Get off my bridge." So on the near side of the battlefield, Fresh Prince Bel-Air then activates Kundalini, who takes aim with his grenade launcher, earning him +1 to hit, and he fires a crack grenade directly at the closest target towards him, which happens to be Val the Impaler. Not only does he manage to hit Val the Impaler, but he also managed to put a serious injury result on him as well, so because that Val the Impaler is now laying on the ground and he is bleeding out because he is currently seriously injured, and he will need to roll up in the end phase to see exactly what happens to him as well. So for his final action, Dark Lord Mac then activates Red Cap Killer, gets back on his feet again, and he shoots both his pistols as his next basic action. He does suffer a -2 to hit penalty, but because he's within 6 inches of 2 different targets, he actually gets +1 to hit bonus with both his plasma pistol as well as his bolt gun. And in true Tombstone style, like Doc Holliday, he actually, not only does he manage to hit his 2 targets, he also managed to put them both out of action as well. He managed to hit Starbuck with a bolt pistol, managed to put that guy out of action, so he will be going back into the reinforcements phase, and he also managed to hit as well as put out of action Starbuck there on the left-hand side. Now, as a result of that, though, he did shoot with his plasma gun on him, and he actually got an ammo roll check on that one, so because that he does run out of ammo, so because that he has no more plasma shots for his plasma pistol. But just like with I'll Be Your Huckleberry, he just 2 guns, 2 guys down right off the bat, which is actually pretty awesome if you think about it cinematically anyways. And for the rest of the action phase, my friend Fresh Prince Belair then activates his last 2 remaining fires, which are Clunk as well as Giant the Boy. He charges them both directly into the close combat, Clunk going after Noose Taggart and Giant the Boy going after Red Harvest. Unfortunately for them, though, they failed their attacks, so not much is really happening, and those guys are currently engaged in close combat. And with that being said, we go directly to the end phase. So at the beginning of the end phase, my friend Dark Lord Matt doesn't take a bottle test, but he actually managed to pass that bottle test with flying colors, so that part's kind of nice. However, Val the Impaler, he does go out of action, and he also suffers a grievous injury result as well. So that's 1 less fighter that Section 8 has to actually fight this scenario with. At the same time, Diabando on the left-hand flank, he does get back on his feet again, and he carries a flesh wound on him as well, so now he's packing 2 flesh wounds. He's only 1 flesh wound away from being put out of action, but not much of concern for the Ironsides in this scenario because they have to worry about injury results. At the same time, Out Cold result was given to the Kurgan when he rolled for his injury result. He actually got a flesh wound is what he ended up getting, so because of that his 4 toughness are used up, so he goes out of action automatically with an Out Cold result. And finally, Red Harvest, he does manage to pass his cool check for his nerves, so because of that he does earn another additional experience point for recovering his nerve, and at the same time he's getting ready to act in the next phase as well. So with the end phase over with, we go directly to the reinforcement phase. And in the reinforcement phase, the Knight Rider once again shows up right on the top of the MCI Chemical Works tower right next to Kundalini, so that way he has a good overwatching field of fire with his heavy stubber. And Bubba Zanetti as well as Starbuck also show up on the far right hand flank as well in order to continue on their assault. So with the reinforcement phase over with, we go directly to the end of turn number 3. Alright, so here's an overhead shot at the end of turn number 3 for the entirety of the battlefield, and as you can see, the Venators now are starting to lose a lot of ground in this case. They're starting to lose a lot of fighters and starting to take some heavy casualties, while the endless wave of Orlock Ironsider just keeps on coming and coming. And as you can see in this photo, my friend Fresh Prince Belair is continuing on his assault on both the left as well as the right hand flank, and he also plans on using Kundalini as well as a Knight Rider on the near side of the table to suppress the Venators in the center of the table as well. So with the end of turn number 3, we go directly to the top of turn number 4, and both Fresh Prince Belair and Dark Lord Mac roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so we go directly to the top of turn number 4, and the Venators manage to get the initiative on this one again, and the first thing that my friend does is that Dark Lord Mac activates the Saracen, who then uses Overseer ability, which allows a fighter to be activated twice in a row, and he puts it directly onto Red Harvest. So Red Harvest spends a first set of action activations to do a double movement to get to the top of the walkway again, and then he also spends a second action in order to shoot twice because he has the fast shot ability. He takes aim with his long rifle and goes directly into, I believe that is Diabando, as well as, I believe that was Mudguts, I think, is who he ended up shooting at that one. So because he managed to hit both of them, he actually put serious injuries on both of those guys. He put Mudguts down with a flesh wound and a serious injury, and at the same time he also managed to put Diabando directly out of action. However, the victory is short-lived because Kundalini does get activated next, same thing with the Knight Rider. The Knight Rider opens up with this heavy stubber, but unfortunately wasn't able to do much of anything. However, Kundalini opens up with a grenade launcher, opening up with his crack grenade. He takes a basic action aim, so he gets +1 to hit, and he opens fire with that crack grenade, and that crack grenade goes directly into the Saracen, which is the leader of the Section 8. Not only does he manage to hit him, but he also manages to wound him as well, so because of that, the Saracen does go falling off the side of the bridge. He fails his initiative test and manages to hit the ground. In the end, he actually put, I think, a serious injury as well as 2 flesh wounds, as well as an out-of-action result onto the Saracen. So because of that, the Saracen does go out of action with a grievous injury, so he'll mess that as his next battle report. And for obvious reasons, Red Harvest had to take a cool check to see if he panicked, which he failed. I think he rolled like a 10, so because of that he drops down to the other side of the bridge, and he's currently broken because he just watched his leader getting hit with a grenade launcher and getting flown off the top of a tower, so that part's kind of crazy. Meanwhile, on the far right-hand side, Dark Lord Mac then activates Noose Taggart, who then goes directly into close combat with Clunk. Unfortunately for Noose Taggart, he does have an enfeebling injury as well as a spinal injury, I believe. So he's -1 to his toughness as well as -1 to his strength. He's only toughness 2, strength 2. So unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to do anything directly against Clunk. And at the same time, Clunk was unable to do much against anything as well against Noose Taggart because Fresh Prince Belair then activates Clunk to counterattack. But unfortunately, though, his weapon skill is just so low, nothing much really happens there. So the two of them are still grappling it out right there in the far right-hand flank. So up next, my friend then activates the Toe Cutter, so Fresh Prince Belair moves the Toe Cutter his normal moon allowance forward, and he opens fire with his bolt gun directly into AWOL Al, who is in the next closest target on the other side of the bridge. Not only does he manage to hit AWOL Al, he also puts a serious injury roll on him as well, and a flesh wound, so because that AWOL Al face plants directly into the ground, and is currently bleeding out on the ground, and he will need to roll up for his injury in the end phase. Mayday, to her credit, does pass her cool check. She doesn't panic, and she basically just stands her ground at that point. Meanwhile, across the battlefield on the far right-hand side, Red Calculator is activated next, and he actually managed to put out of action Giant the Boy, blowing his head off with a bolt pistol. So Giant the Boy does go out of action, but like always, he doesn't really worry about that, though, because he doesn't have to worry about taking any injury rolls for his fighters. In fact, Giant the Boy will show up again during the reinforcement phase. Fresh Prince Belair then activates, Starbuck, who then also charges directly into Red Cap Killer, but unfortunately for him though, he just kind of fails his attack dice and he wasn't able to hit Red Cap Killer or cause any wounds, so the two of them are still grappling out in close combat on the far right hand flank. And since Torque was pinned earlier, he does manage to get back on his feet again, and he moves up in normal moon allowance, so that way he can start engaging in close combat with Noose Taggart when the time comes. So he's getting ready to do a 2-1 fight against Noose Taggart. And Dark Lord Mac then activates Mayday, who then takes aim and shoots with her last gun, getting a +1 to hit directly into Starbuck, into Bubba Zanetti. But unfortunately for her, though, she failed her hit shot, so nothing really came from that, and Bubba Zanetti is perfectly fine. In fact, Bubba Zanetti is so fine, in fact, that my friend Fresh Prince Belair decides to activate him for his very last activation in the action phase, and he charges directly into Red Cap Killer. And even with the bonus that he gets in order to hit, because they have two fighters against one guy, unfortunately for Bubba Zanetti, though, he fails his hit dice, so not much is really happening. So now, Red Cap Killer is currently engaged with two different fighters. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase. And for obvious reasons, as you can see here, they fail their battle test on this one because they've taken so many fighters as well. At the same time, though, AWOL Al does manage to get back on his feet again with a flesh wound, so that part is kind of nice. Meanwhile, Mudguts on the far left-hand side, he is still seriously injured, so not much is going on from that one. In fact, when he got the aid from the Toe Cutter and he rolled his injury dice, Fresh Prince Belair rolled up 2 seriously injured rolls, so because of that, Mudguts is still bleeding out. And finally, Red Harvest, he does manage to pass his cool test again during the end phase, so he'll be able to act anyways, but it's not really much of anything because Section 8 actually bottled out on this one. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that takes directly to end the game, with the Orlocks winning this one, so another victory netted for the Iron Sights of House Orlock on this one. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the After Action report, directly into the post-game, and we're going to talk about exactly what happened for each of the gangs for this scenario. Alright, so now we're into the post-game of the battle report. During the post-game section, we talk about the injuries, advancements, territories, reputation, records, and ratings for each of the gangs, and exactly what happens to each of the fighters as well. For Section 8, starting with the injuries, they actually had 5 fighters who went out of action during this battle report. The Saracen, Val the Impaler, as well as Buzzkill, all 3 of those guys got grievous injuries, so they will go into recovery and miss their next battle report. Whereas the Kurgan and Manchurian Black, they both got all cold results, so they both got pretty lucky on this one. When it came to advancements, 6 members of the Venators of Section 8 actually leveled up to the next level. Red Cap Killer leveled up to level 3, earning +1 to his toughness. Same thing with Red Harvest, earning +1 to his toughness as well. The Kurgan also leveled up as well, earning +1 to his toughness too. So because of that, the Kurgan is now toughness 5, so he's actually pretty beast mode on this one. AWOL Al earned +1 to his ballistic skill, and same thing with Noose Taggart, she earned +1 to her movement, and Mayday, she also got +1 to her cool result as well. From their territories, they actually got 1 point of reputation from their settlement, as well as 40 credits, and when they rolled to see if they recruited a new hunter, they actually did, and got a new hunter named the Pig Killer. From their Needleways, of course, they didn't get a chance to use their territory on that one because the deployment on this one was pretty controlled, so they really couldn't do much of anything about that one. For the reputation, they earned 1 point of reputation from the settlement, as well as 1 from the scenario, bringing their grand total reputation to 15 points. In the merchant phase, by the time it was all said and done, they had 75 credits in total in order to spend. They purchased a shotgun with solid scatter, as well as execution rounds for Pig Killer, and they also purchased him a set of mesh armor, as well as a stub gun with dum-dum bullets. The current record for Section 8 is 3 wins, as well as 3 losses, and the new gang rating now is at 1,780 points. Alright, so now we talk about the Iron Sights. For the injuries, they actually suffer no injuries in this scenario because none have to worry about taking injury results for getting guys out of action in the scenario due to the scenario rules, so they got pretty lucky on this one as well. For advancements, 5 members of the gang did advance. Bubba Zanetti as well as Torque both earned their specialist abilities, so now they can earn and spend experience points just like Juvies as well as gang champions and gang leaders. Kundalini earned +1 to his toughness, while Starbuck earned +1 to his cool, and Mudguts got +1 to his movement allowance as well. From their territories, from their settlement, they got +1 reputation for their settlement as well as 50 credits, and they also managed to recruit a new ganger named No Face. My friend Freshman's there actually rolled boxcars on his recruiting on that one, so because they get a brand new member for his gang. From his drinking hole, he earned +1 reputation from that as well. From his reputation totals, he got 2 from his scenario and as well as 2 from his territories, bringing up the current reputation total to 17 for the Iron Sights. For the merchant, he ended up with a grand total of 155 credits in total. With those 155 credits, he purchased a flamer as well as a stub gun and dubbed rounds for No Face and placed the remaining 5 credits into his stash. His new rating now for the Iron Sights is at 2 wins and 4 losses, and the new gang rating now is at 1,585 points. So that's good to do for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest, and hobby news about this channel. That's good to do for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.